Steve and Danny walk into the same dealership on the same Saturday afternoon, eyeing the exact same car, a $35,000 crossover SUV sitting under the showroom lights. They've even got similar jobs and similar paychecks, but sit them down with a salesperson and ask what they actually want, and the similarities stop fast. Steve doesn't love the idea of a car payment following him around for the rest of his life. He wants to pay this thing off, keep it running, and eventually drive it for free. Danny doesn't want to think about repairs, resale value, or driving the same car for a decade. He likes always having something new under warranty, and he's fine paying a little extra every month for that. So Steve finances, Danny leases, same car, same day, same $35,000 sticker price, and two completely different math problems. Let's start with Danny, because on paper, his choice looks like the easy win. He signs a standard 36-month lease with an allowance of 12,000 miles a year, 36,000 miles total before overage fees kick in. To drive off the lot, he needs $2,100 up front, covering the first month's payment, a $695 acquisition fee, and taxes and paperwork on top. His monthly lease payment comes out to $535, which covers the car's depreciation, plus a small finance charge. On top of that, he needs full insurance coverage. Leasing companies require it, running him $140 a month. And since the car is brand new and covered by the manufacturer's warranty for the entire lease, he sets aside a token $15 a month for oil changes. All in, Danny's total monthly cost to drive this car is $690. Steve's version looks heavier from the jump. He puts down 15%, which is $5,250, and between sales tax, registration, and dealer fees, he needs another $2,450 in cash before he can leave the lot. $7,700 total, more than triple what Danny needed. He finances the remaining $29,750 over 60 months at 6.5% interest, putting his monthly principal and interest payment at $582. Add $150 a month for insurance, plus roughly $30 a month set aside for maintenance during the first 3 years while the factory warranty still covers most of the big stuff, and Steve's total monthly cost comes to $762. So right away, there's a gap. Danny is paying $72 less a month than Steve, and he needed $5,600 less cash to drive off the lot in the first place. If the story stopped here, leasing looks like the obvious winner. But this is exactly where most people stop looking, and it's the part that gets you into trouble. Here's the thing about Danny's $535 lease payment. None of it is building him anything. It's not principal. It's not equity. It's functionally the cost of temporarily having a car, closer to rent than to a mortgage. When his 36 months are up, Danny hands the keys back and walks away with exactly the same amount of car-related wealth he started with, $0. Steve's $582 payment, on the other hand, is doing double duty. Part of it is interest, which is genuinely just a cost, but part of it is chipping away at what he owes, which means part of every single payment is quietly becoming his. Let's jump to the 3-year mark, right when Danny's lease runs out. Danny has paid $26,940 in total over those 3 years. The $2,100 signing cost plus 36 months of $690. Now he's back at the dealership, handing over a car that was never his, with 3 choices: sign a new lease, walk away, or buy this exact car for its residual value, which the leasing company locked in on day one at $19,250, 55% of what it cost new. That buyout option is worth knowing about because it's the one move that captures some benefit of both worlds. But Danny does what most lease customers do. He signs a new lease on a newer model, this one costing $2,300 to drive off the lot and $720 a month. Steve, over the same 3 years, has spent $35,132 in cash, the $7,700 up front, plus 36 months of $762. His loan balance has dropped from $29,750 to about $12,600, and the car itself, following a typical depreciation curve, is worth around $19,250, the same number as Danny's lease residual, because that's genuinely close to what a 3-year-old version of this car sells for. Subtract what Steve owes from what it's worth, and he's sitting on $6,650 in equity. He's spent more cash than Danny, but he's holding an actual asset, and he's already 2/3 of the way through paying it off completely. This is also where the horror stories start showing up for both of them. Leased cars have to come back in acceptable condition, and dealerships don't define that generously. A curb-rashed wheel, a shopping cart dent, a coffee stain on the seat can all turn into a bill at inspection. Mileage matters too. Say Danny took a couple of unplanned road trips and came in 4,000 miles over his 36,000 mile allowance. At 20 cents a mile, that's an extra $800 due at return on a car he never owned to begin with. Steve's risk runs the other way. If he'd traded in his financed car after year one instead of sticking around, he likely would have owed more on the loan than the car was even worth. A situation people call being upside down. Fast early depreciation combined with a loan balance that's barely moved is brutal if plans change too soon. Buying a car only starts paying off once you've stuck around long enough to absorb that early cost. Now push forward to year 5 because this is where the two stories really split. For Steve, year 5 is the finish line on the loan. His total cash spent over 5 years comes to $54,380, the $35,132 from the first 3 years, plus 2 more years at $802 a month. A little higher now because the factory warranty expired and his maintenance budget rose to $70 a month for things like brakes and tires. But that final loan payment lands and the car is his, free and clear, worth around $14,000, about 40% of what it cost new. Net it out, and Steve's real 5-year cost of driving comes to about $40,380. Starting the next month, his car payment simply disappears. For Danny, 5 years in, he's 2 years into his second lease. Between the first lease and 2 years into the second, he's paid a running total of $46,520. He owns nothing. There's no finish line coming, just 1 more year left on this lease, and then either another signing fee and another 36 payments or handing the keys back for good. This is the exact moment the early math flips. In the first 3 years, leasing was cheaper for Danny by $72 a month. By year 5, buying has become dramatically cheaper for Steve. Not because leasing got worse, but because Steve's loan eventually ends and Danny's payments never do. Now, year 10. Steve has been driving payment-free for 5 straight years, covering just insurance and maintenance on an aging but paid-off car. Insurance drops slightly as the car's value falls, but maintenance climbs as the transmission, suspension, and AC compressor start asking for attention, averaging about $240 a month combined. Over those 5 years, that adds up to $14,400, bringing his total 10-year cash spent to $68,780. The car itself, older now, is worth roughly $6,500. Netted out, and Steve's true 10-year cost of owning this car comes to about $62,280, and he's still got a car sitting in his driveway he could sell tomorrow, or just keep driving for free. Danny, meanwhile, has been through this cycle 3.5 times. Lease 1, Lease 2, a full Lease 3, and he's now a year into Lease 4, with payments that have crept from $690 up to $765 as each new car costs a little more than the last, and insurance on a fleet of always new vehicles stays consistently higher than insuring an old paid-off one. His total 10-year spending comes to $96,360. He owns nothing. He has never once in 10 years gone a single month without a car payment, and if he keeps leasing, he never will. The gap between them after a decade is a little over $34,000, and honestly, that understates it, because Steve's monthly costs are about to keep shrinking while Danny's are locked into rising forever. One of these guys is driving toward a future with no car payment at all. The other is driving toward another dealership, forever. Now, before this turns into buying always wins, case closed, it doesn't, and it's worth being fair to Danny here. If he drives fewer than 12,000 miles a year, genuinely can't stand the idea of a surprise repair bill, or just wants the newest safety tech and a full warranty at all times, leasing solves real problems, buying doesn't. People who use their car heavily for work sometimes get real tax advantages out of leasing that don't apply to a personal loan. And there's a version of Danny who simply doesn't want to think about car ownership as a 10-year commitment, who treats a car more like a phone plan than a possession. That's not financially irrational. It's a preference, and preferences are allowed to cost something. Steve's path isn't automatically the smart move for everyone either. It ties up more cash up front. It comes with maintenance responsibility that Danny's leasing company simply absorbs. And the whole advantage depends on one thing: sticking around long enough to get past the point where depreciation and upfront costs dominate the math. Sell or trade in a finance car after a year or two, and you can easily come out behind, sometimes further behind than if you just leased the whole time. If you want a rough gut check, here's one. Think about how many years you realistically expect to keep a car. Under about 3 years, leasing is often the cheaper, simpler option, especially if you like driving something new. Past about 5 years, and especially if you tend to hang on to a car until it's genuinely done, buying almost always wins, because the loan eventually ends and lease payments never do. Mileage matters too. Heavy mileage drivers get punished hard by overage fees in a way that just doesn't exist once you own the car outright. And like with most financial decisions, none of this needs to be all or nothing forever. Plenty of people lease during a season of life when flexibility matters most, then switch to buying once they know exactly what they want and how long they plan to keep it. The lease buyout Danny had available at year 3 exists for exactly this reason, a way to turn a few years of trying the car out into ownership without starting the depreciation clock over from zero. So it really comes down to 2 honest questions. How long do you actually expect to keep this car? Because leasing and trading it in every 3 years for the convenience almost never beats buying and driving it into the ground. And how much do you actually value not thinking about maintenance, warranties, and resale? Because that peace of mind is real. It's just not free. And now you know roughly what it costs. So are you a Danny, always driving something new, never once opening the hood, walking away clean every 3 years no matter what? Or are you a Steve putting up with the little ding in the door because it's your ding, counting down the months until that payment finally hits zero for good? Drop it in the comments. And if you're standing in a dealership right now trying to decide, do the 5-year math before you decide based on the monthly payment.